Hey, welcome back to another episode of AP Expedition. Today we're doing some much needed maintenance on the Suzuki V-STROM. Plus it's raining outside, so we can't go for a ride today, but what better way to spend a rainy day in the garage wrenching on your bike, listening to some music. So today the main goal is to give you viewers at home a little bit better insight as to how to change the brake pads on your brake calipers. If this is your first brake job ever, it's really not that hard. Just be patient with it. And you may be wondering why I'm wearing these goofy gloves. Brake pads are made out of carcinogenic material, and the brake dust that comes off of the brake pads used are carcinogenic. So, you know, you might want to wear gloves to protect yourself, and definitely wash your hands afterwards before going and eating some hot wings or anything like that. So let's jump right into it. So in today's brake job video, I'm gonna be focusing on the left-hand side of my bike. The bike I'm working on is my 2013 Suzuki V-STROM 650, and you'll notice I have two anchor bolts here. In order to get to the brake pads and get the caliper off, we're gonna need to remove those. And you may be wondering like, hey, that's not what my bike looks like. Maybe your anchor bolts are running in line with the bike and you have inverted forks. That's okay. This application should work the same on just about any brake calipers for changing out your brake pads. So first thing, we will need to remove these two anchor bolts here in order to get the caliper off. And you want to be careful not to twist or turn the caliper when you're sliding it off of the rotor there, just so you don't damage the rotor. Another crucial thing in the whole process of this, especially at this time now that the caliper is removed from the actual rotor disc, do not touch your front brakes whatsoever, because those pistons will clamp the pads together, or even once it's removed, those pistons will, they can come out. So, and then you'd be looking at a full brake rebuild. But as you can see, this there's a lot of dust and stuff going on here. So we're gonna get these pads out, clean it up, put the new pads in. So another thing I like to do once you get the caliper removed from the disc, I like to use a bungee cord or something to hold the caliper when you're not actually holding it with your hands, just to relieve any stress from your brake line there, so it's not pulling on that brake line too much, and just find you a nice tie down spot for that, so that whenever you're not holding it, it's not going to put too much stress on your brake line. All right, now the next step that we need to do, and as far as getting the calipers removed, is you'll see there's a small cotter pin here that I have here on my calipers, and we need to remove that in order to get this pin out. There we have it, just like that. There we go. And you want to keep these parts in a bin or something that you can spray them down with brake cleaner, because we're going to be cleaning all of these parts up that we're going to reuse. So at this time with mine, this caliper, or this pad, will slide up, come over, that's one. And we'll take this one and push the pistons as far back as we can. I believe they're already down in there good. Yep. You can see how dirty that is there. Pretty dirty. And then hang on to these metal pieces behind the brake pads. We're gonna remove that and reuse it. So you wanna save these and take note of how they went on the brake pad. And we're gonna clean these up with some brake cleaner. All right, next step. You can see how dirty the inside of this caliper is with all the brake dust build up from over the years and mileage that this bike has had. Our discs our rotors seem to be in really good condition. There's, like I said, no gouging or anything. But at this time, we're gonna go ahead and start cleaning everything. So I've got just some of my general brake cleaner here. I'm gonna spray a lot of this down. And I'm gonna take a retired toothbrush and we're just gonna clean in here really good. Now once you feel like you've cleaned up good in there, be sure you scrub a lot of that old brake dust out. You don't want to just leave a dirty caliper and put new pads in. That's not really efficient, I would say. Try to clean your calipers up good and take care of them, and they should last you a long time. And another thing with the rotors and these calipers, this isn't, you know, like a track bike or anything, and it doesn't see hard off-road mileage, so everything seems to be good and well taken care of. Alrighty, now we're gonna go ahead and clean up the rest of our brake pad parts here from the caliper. Get some of this old cruddy brake dust off of them. Be sure that they're good to go. So for the rear caliper, the rear brake pad has the metal shim as well, same as the front on the V-STROM. However, the front brake pads do not come with this insulated piece here that you see. This insulated piece is only for the rear of the bike. Now this is bike specific and part specific, so don't panic if yours doesn't have this piece, but I just thought this was a good little side note that if you happen to have a 2013 Suzuki V-STROM or 3rd gen or whatever gen, if yours doesn't have these, and you know, like maybe it was a mistake that the previous owner had made, just get you some new ones. If not, you want to hang on to these. Like if yours does have these, you want to hang on to these, clean them up the same way as we're cleaning the shims up and everything. Just scrub them up good, and then we will reinstall these along with the metal shims with our new brake pads. All right, now once you've got all of your pieces cleaned up good, we're gonna take the new pads, put that one there. We're gonna put our metal backing pieces on. They just clamp on, just like that. Good to go. Now we're ready to install them back into the caliper once you've gotten all of your parts cleaned up good. All right, so once we've cleaned up our metal pieces, we're gonna put them back onto the new brake pads. And before I like to install these back into the caliper, I like to put just a little bit of grease right where the pistons sit, just a little bit, to reduce the friction and creating bad vibes or any sort of noise when you're hitting the brakes. And I'm talking just a little bit of grease on here. And on the V-STROM, doing the brake job on the V-STROM is not that hard, in my opinion, just because on the FZ6, the Yamaha I had before this bike, it was kind of a handful getting the pads back into the caliper and putting multiple pins back together. It was just a little bit of a handful to do it all, and the grease kind of helps with making sure everything stays where it's supposed to be when you're putting it back together. So it reduces any sort of brake noise and makes it easier going back together. I'm talking about just a little bit. So one other place we're gonna put just a little bit of grease is right where the brake pads are gonna rest on the calipers, and just along the edge of the piston. All right, now once we've got our grease in there, we're ready to install the new brake pads. keep in mind which way the cotter pin is facing. Some calipers may be a little hard to change the orientation of where the cotter pin hole is once you've slid it back into position. This one's not too bad. Cotter pin there. Slide it back on there. All right, get your brake pads where they're supposed to be, all pressed in good. Make sure they're got nice even spacing there. Pistons are pushed back. And we'll slide it back onto the rotor. The new pad's installed. We just slide it back into position. Grab our anchor bolts. And then always be sure you use a torque wrench or whatever device, apparatus, tool that you're going to use to get the correct torque specs for your brake caliper bolts. That way you don't over tighten them. Using 28 pounds on the V-STROM 650. Alrighty, got the brake caliper back on. You can see our new brake pads are installed. Got the anchor bolts back in, looking good. Already did the other side when you guys weren't watching. I'm telling you, that quick. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. Well, that's it for the video this week. I know it was a short one, but I hope I was able to provide you at home with some insight if you're tackling your own brake job or thinking about doing it instead of sending it off to a service shop or your local dealer. If you found it helpful, definitely give the video a thumbs up. I really appreciate that. And just remember, take your time with it. Don't force anything. Be patient, and you got it. It's not that hard, especially for someone like me who's not a mechanic, but I enjoy working on my own things myself and trying to do the job right and best I can. I just take a lot more pride in my own things by doing so. And if you have any comments for me or the things I did in the video, go ahead and drop those below. And if you want to stay up to date with everything I have coming out each and every week and new places we're going to see, trips that are in the works, and different bikes, different cars, different places, hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate that. Definitely keeps me motivated to make videos, and I love taking you all along with me for the ride. I'll catch y'all next week in the next video, and always remember to enjoy the ride. Peace.